The ugly duckling. It was a warm, sunny day in the countryside. The golden corn waved gently in the fields, and the meadows were lush with green oats. Overhead, a stork walked on his long red legs, chatting in the language he had learned from his mother. The cornfields and meadows were surrounded by dense forests, and in the middle of these forests, deep pools of water reflected the clear blue sky. Nearby, in a quiet corner by a deep river, there stood an old farmhouse. Great burdock leaves grew thick along the riverbank, so large that even a child could stand upright under them. In this secluded spot, a mother duck sat patiently on her nest. Her eggs had been taking longer than usual to hatch, and she was growing tired of waiting. "Quack, quack," she muttered, wondering when her young brood would finally come out. The other ducks from the farm rarely visited her because they preferred swimming in the cool waters of the river, and climbing the slippery banks to visit her wasn't easy. Finally, after what seemed like forever, the eggs began to crack. One by one, little ducklings appeared, their small heads poking out of the shells as they chirped, "Peep, peep." The mother duck beamed with pride as she greeted them with a soft quack, quack. She allowed the little ones to look around at the big green leaves. "How big the world is!" one of the ducklings exclaimed in amazement. The mother duck chuckled. "This isn't the whole world," she explained. "There's much more beyond the river. One day, you'll see the garden and the field beyond it. But for now, let's make sure you're all out of your eggs." Just then, she noticed that one egg, the largest of all, still hadn't hatched. Growing impatient, she sat back down on the nest. At that moment, an old duck waddled by to check on her. "How are things going?" the old duck asked. "All of them hatched except for this one," replied the mother duck, nodding toward the large egg. "It's taking forever." The old duck examined the egg. I've seen this before. That's likely a turkey egg," she said knowingly. "I once hatched some turkey eggs myself, and believe me, they don't swim. You should leave it and teach the others how to swim instead." But the mother duck wasn't convinced. "I've waited this long. What's a few more days?" she said, deciding to sit on the egg a little while longer. Finally, after a few more days, the large egg cracked open, and out popped a big, strange-looking duckling. He was much larger than the others, and instead of the soft yellow feathers of his siblings, he had dulled gray plumage. The mother duck blinked in surprise. "Oh my, you're a big one," she murmured, puzzled. "I wonder if you're really a turkey. We'll find out soon enough when we go to the water." The next day was bright and sunny, so the mother duck gathered her brood and led them down to the river. One by one, the little ducklings jumped into the water and began to swim, paddling their legs under the surface with ease. To the mother duck's relief, the large, odd duckling swam just as well as the others. "Oh, thank goodness," she sighed. "You're not a turkey after all. You swim beautifully, even if you are a little different." However, the farmyard was not as kind to the new duckling. When the mother duck took her ducklings to meet the other animals, everyone at once noticed the strange duckling. "Look at that ugly one of the ducks quacked loudly. "We don't want him here." Even the turkeys puffed up their feathers and chased him around the yard. The poor duckling was pecked and pushed by everyone, and even his siblings were unkind to him. "Go away, you ugly creature," they taunted. "We wish the cat would take you away." His mother tried to defend him, but deep down, she too felt sorry that he was so different. "He's not doing any harm," she told the other ducks. "Leave him alone." But the bullying only grew worse with each passing day. The chickens pecked at him, the girl who fed the poultry kicked him, and even his own brothers and sisters wished he would disappear. Feeling hopeless and unloved, the ugly duckling decided to run away. He flew over the fence and into the wild. He wandered through fields and meadows until he came to a moor where wild ducks lived. There, he found a place to rest among the tall reeds. For 2 days, he stayed hidden, afraid to be seen. When the wild ducks finally noticed him, they were not kind either. "You're very ugly," they said bluntly, "but you can stay here as long as you don't try to marry one of us." The ugly duckling didn't care about marriage. All he wanted was a safe place where he wouldn't be bullied. But even that peace was short-lived. Soon, two young geese came up to him and said, "You're so ugly, we actually like you. Come with us. There's another moor nearby with plenty of unmarried geese." But before they could leave, the air was filled with the sound of gunshots. Pop, pop, the two geese fell dead, and hunters with dogs swarmed the area. The ugly duckling fled in terror, hiding as the dogs ran through the reeds. One large dog came so close to him that he could see the dog's sharp teeth, but the dog ignored him and ran off. "I'm so ugly, even the dog doesn't want to bite me," the duckling thought, feeling more miserable than ever. After the hunters left, the duckling ran as far as he could until he found a small cottage. The door was slightly open, and he slipped inside for shelter. Inside lived an old woman, a cat, and a hen. The woman, whose eyesight wasn't very good, thought the duckling might be a fat duck that could lay eggs. "I'll keep him," she thought, and she let him stay. But the cat and the hen didn't like the duckling. They constantly teased him. "Can you purr or lay eggs?" they asked. When the duckling said no, they told him he was useless. Feeling lonely and misunderstood, the duckling decided to leave once again. He found a pond where he could swim, but even there, the animals avoided him because of his appearance. Autumn came, and the days grew shorter and colder. The poor duckling was all alone. Winter arrived, and soon the pond began to freeze over. The duckling swam in circles, trying to keep the water from freezing, but each night the ice grew thicker. Eventually, he became trapped in the ice. A kind farmer found him, freed him from the frozen pond, and took him home to warm up. The warmth revived the duckling, but when the farmer's children tried to play with him, he panicked. He knocked over a milk jug and caused a mess. Terrified, he fled from the cottage and back into the cold winter. Finally, after a long and harsh winter, spring arrived. The sun warmed the earth, and the ugly duckling felt a surge of strength in his wings. He flapped them and realized he could fly. He soared through the air and landed in a large garden where 3 beautiful swans swam in a pond. The ugly duckling felt drawn to the swans, but he was certain they would reject him because of his ugliness. Still, he swam toward them, ready to face whatever came. But when he looked down at his reflection in the water, he saw something incredible. He wasn't an ugly duckling anymore. He was a beautiful swan. The other swans welcomed him, and children nearby shouted, "Look at the new swan. He's the most beautiful of all." For the first time, the duckling, now a swan, felt truly happy. All the hardship he had faced was worth it, for he had finally found his place in the world.